Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Faith and Fandom Feedback Friday for October 4th, 2024. If you don't know me, my name is Hector. I write a book series called Faith and Fandom, talk about nerdy stuff in Jesus, and try and be an encouragement to the people I'm fortunate enough to come across. So that's what we're here for. That's where the party is. That's what we're doing. As soon as I get this dry bones to be still. All right. Hope y'all are doing well. It has been a week. Not a bad week, just a week. In terms of stuff for me and stuff going on in my life. So yesterday was a really long and arduous work day. Uh, DJ'd a golf tournament for roughly 12 hours. And I'm excited to be sitting in this chair talking to y'all. And so let's jump right in on the news for the week. Get right to that. But yeah, good morning. Hope you're doing well. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you can watch video of it over on Facebook or YouTube. And if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, you can listen to this in your ear holes directly over on the podcast channel. First up, Alan Tudyk, the man, if y'all don't know who Alan Tudyk is, y'all need to know. But Alan Tudyk, who is Wash in Firefly, he was the robot in iRobot. He's Joker and Clayface in the Harley Quinn series, but he's also like 90,000 voice acting roles. He's also the star of Resident Alien as of late, but he has been a long-term component for DC Comics. Um, from everything to playing the Joker to Clayface to being Green Arrow and Injustice 2 to being Mr. Nobody and Doomsday Patrol, Doom Patrol, to being Mr. Nobody and Doom Patrol. And yeah, he's just all over the place. I didn't see captions. I was making sure. Okay, cool. I had audio. But yeah, he's kind of all over the place with everything, and he is going to be playing a secret role in the upcoming Superman film uh that is coming out. And so that could be anything to being Brainiac, that could be Crypto if Crypto talks, he could be Mixoplick. I don't know, man. But all I know is that Alan Tudyk is going to be in Superman, which means it's going to be better. Just because Alan Tudyk makes everything better. I didn't like him as the bad guy in Wreck-It Ralph, but whatever. Not that I didn't like him. I just didn't like the bad guy in Wreck-It Ralph. He's also Hey Hey the chicken from Moana, so and the toucan from Encanto. I mean, he's literally all over the place. If you were watching during the pandemic, the folks that made like Bullet Train and stuff made an action movie starring Bob Odenkirk, Saul from Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, called Nobody. Nobody 2 has officially wrapped filming. So if you're excited to see Bob Odenkirk go full John Wick again, um, that's totally going to happen, and you're going to have that chance. But Nobody 2 has wrapped filming, and I am excited for this because I really enjoyed the first Nobody, and I root for Bob Odenkirk, just for life success in general. A bio lab in Conyers, Georgia, which, if you're ever heading to Atlanta, Conyers is the last stop before Atlanta that's still kind of technically Atlanta, but not really Atlanta. Like when I would stay at Dragon Con and try to be moderately affordable, I would stay in Conyers. Um, but earlier this week, a fire broke out at a biolab, causing a huge explosion. Uh, Plumes of toxic smoke, and a shelter in place order was released for much of the region surrounding Conyers and all the way up into Atlanta. So that did happen earlier this week. Um, in a, we're so caught up in our debates and stuff like that and hating on each other's political candidates and stuff like that. Um, Meanwhile, this past week, Japan's new prime minister came out to give an interview in full uh Majin Buu cosplay. The prime minister of Japan, their top political official, came out in public in a full pink bodysuit, purple cape, uh the yellow gloves, everything, and gave a public address dressed as Majin Buu. Good morning, Jeff. Um, all I'm saying, I'm not a political animal. I don't really advocate or argue politics. But I'll just tell you, if a political candidate or a political official gives a public address dressed as an anime character, not even a main character in an anime, I'm more likely to at least give you my attention briefly. So, throwing that out there, if you're brainstorming strategies on how to get my vote, that's a way. On a note, this not really news, but it's just kind of interesting. I am going to be DJing at two separate polling or two separate voting locations on election day. I'm working with an organization called DJs at the Polls, where they hire DJs around the country to uh make the election site a vibe and to keep it encouraging and to keep people from being toxic and mean to each other. So I'm going to be DJing for 4 hours at two separate voting locations on election day. It's going to be fun. So it's going to be a party. So I'm not saying anything about voting of who you should vote for, but if you just want to come out and jam, I'll play your favorite song. Um, yeah. And while we're briefly on politics, because I'm not staying on politics this morning, um, Zachary Levi came out and announced, who's, by the way, his birthday was this week. Um, he just turned 44. I'm only like 6 months younger than Zachary Levi. So weird. Zachary Levi came out and publicly endorsed Trump. And he made a speech saying that he expected it to be career suicide. Hey, Tristan, good morning, dude. Um, but he has been very politically advocate or active both on his socials and verbally lately, and that's not really a surprise. But that did happen. Whoopi Goldberg responded and kind of saying there's no way it's political suicide. Hollywood, or he said the majority of politics always leans right, you'll be fine, or Hollywood. And either way, just arguments about stuff. Yeah. AJ Griffin is leaving the NBA to enter full-time ministry. I don't know about y'all, but last time I checked, NBA players make the stacks of cash. Yet young AJ Griffin is leaving um to go and pursue ministry because he wants to follow where Jesus is leading him and he wants to do it full time. That's awesome. Um, I don't need to know who he's endorsing as a political candidate. I just think it's dope the man is willing to leave a lucrative career in basketball to go pursue ministry. I hope God blesses him in everything he does and where he's going. Um, if you want to feel old, or maybe it just makes me feel old because I was around for this. Kurt Cobain has an adult daughter. Uh, Kurt Cobain's adult daughter is married to Tony Hawk's adult son, Riley. And if that is not the most 90s relational mashup I've ever heard of, the Kurt Cobain's daughter marrying Tony Hawk's son, it's kind of bonkers. I feel like that's a little more niche than 11 from Stranger Things, Millie Bobby Brown marrying John Bon Jovi's son. So, but either way, they're married. They just had their first baby, um, which is pretty cool. So Kurt Cobain's daughter and Tony Hawk's son had a baby. that's neat. In sad news this week, or at least for me, I'm sure for a lot of people, Frank Fritz, who was half of the original iteration of American Pickers, passed away this week. I love American Pickers, or at least I loved the early seasons of American Pickers with Frank and Mike and Danny. And I actually think I learned a good bit of some business acumen and stuff from their policies on buying things. I think it's influenced some stuff for me. But I just really enjoyed their journey. But Frank passed away this week. If you weren't aware, Frank was not let go, but maybe he was let go. I don't remember the whole story. But Frank departed the American Pickers series a few years ago, and was replaced by Mike's brother, and some other folks guest starring. Danny took a bigger role, but Frank did pass away this week. There's a lot of people that passed away this week. Chris Christopherson, the guy who voiced Oogie Boogie. Um, there's a lot of people that passed away this week. Uh, but Frank Fritz was a close to the heart one for me. Um, yeah, it is sad news about Frank, for real. The Simpsons premiered season 36 of the series. I literally remember being like in elementary school, uh, like maybe third grade, second grade when The Simpsons came out. Like I remember watching The Simpsons when it was a sketch on the Tracy Ullman show, like Pinky and the Brain started on Animaniacs. Either way, it's a long time ago. Um, and The Simpsons premiered season 36 of the series by making the series premiere a fake finale for the series. Um, if you tuned in and watched it or checked it out, they fast forwarded and did a grand finale, series finale that's not really the series finale. But if that floats your boat, just know that they took some creative time with it and had some fun with it. So, yep, that happened. And if you are a Simpsons fan, don't freak out when you start it. It's not the end of the series. They have a whole season ahead and probably a lot more. I highly doubt that that series ends as long as the actors are alive. The end. Um, if you weren't aware, the Scream franchise took a halt when some of the main cast from five and six were let go over some political and social affiliations in terms of just conflicts going on in the world. And so they basically scrapped the plan that was going to be Scream 7. Now Scream 7 has diverted back to being a Sidney Prescott slash Nev Campbell story. And because they have, shifted gears and everything else, it has changed trajectories of when it's coming out. So Scream 7 will now hit theaters February 27th, 2026. That's a lifetime from now. And if, in the Scream franchise, that's a long wait. But February 27th, 2026. Yep. Let's see, skipping that one. Uh multiple employee okay, we're gonna talk a little bit about Helene, the hurricane that came through and some of the devastation. We'll talk about a little bit of that today. Um, before I go into news stories related to it, I just want to encourage you, talking to people on the ground there who are doing service and who are trying to help people in that area. Water is one of the biggest needs, um, uh, that has been expressed. Just water, non-perishable stuff like that. They said that they're getting a lot of other things. Major companies in terms of like paper towels and toilet paper and stuff are sending stuff in. I heard Cascade is sending stuff. But from what I've been told recently by people on the ground, their water is their biggest deal that they need. Um, it's reported that multiple employees uh, in a Tennessee plastic factory died after their bosses told them they weren't allowed to evacuate during Helene. And there's legal action being pursued with that because some survived, um, but multiple did die because they were told they weren't allowed to evacuate. And may we never value productivity over life. And that's just horrible that it happened that way. In the NFL, Von Miller of the Buffalo Bills, the has been suspended for 4 games, violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. If you want more information on that, I'm gonna let you look that up yourself. But Von Miller has been suspended for 4 games. I only know one Buffalo Bills fan, and I know he'll be sad. I think at one point in time, Von Miller was on my fantasy football team, but I haven't played fantasy football since the Panthers were moderately decent. Um, Eminem found out this week at age of 51 that he is going to be a grandfather. Haley Jade, 28, his daughter, who was recently married over the summer, I believe, um, surprised Eminem with a Detroit Lions jersey, that she handed him on video, and the jersey said grandpa. Then she handed him an ultrasound photo, and uh however you feel about Eminem, the video is worth a watch because Eminem holds out the photo of the baby ultrasound thing, and his face is absolute gold. It's just a sweet dad moment. So, yep, Eminem's gonna be a grandpa. So I can't wait for him to start working grandpa, grandfather, lineage, you know, grandbaby stuff into rhymes. That'll be great. Um, in news regarding DC Comics and Red Hood, uh, oh, Tristan says that song was beautiful. Oh yeah, it is. Gosh, is that the temporary one? Oof. Um, yeah, that's rough. Um, and DC Comics, yeah, Lynn says Tony Hawk is a grandpa. Eminem is going to be a grandpa. You're officially old. Girl, I feel you completely on that. There was a I went to a restaurant recently, and there's a young lady at the cash register, the checkout, whatever, um, that had to be 30, like 30 plus, somewhere in that general range. And she said, "Hey, you taught my Bible classes when I was in kindergarten." So I feel it. I've also got, a grown 16-year-old who is doing her own thing. So I'm feeling all of it. Um, in DC Comics news, Red Hood news, James Gunn officially announced this week that there is an animated slash combo presentation film in process that is going to be the story of Jason Todd and Dick Grayson together. So it might be a Robin movie, a Nightwing and Robin movie. It might be the transition of going from Robin to Nightwing to Jason Todd to Red Hood. I don't know all the details, neither do you, but it's happening. It's called Dynamic Duo. It's being made through DC Studios and Warner Brothers Animation, and they're describing it as a blend of animation, puppetry, and CGI. Jason Todd is one of my favorite fictional characters. I just want a good Red Hood movie, y'all. That's literally all I want. So now, on that note, though, one of the things that James Gunn has said is going to transpire for his studio is that if someone voices a character in animation, that then they will also be voicing that character, or they will actually be doing that character in live action. This is true for the Creature Commandos animated movie that will transpire into live action versions, including David Harbour, um, Crimson Commander or whatever, the Hopper from Stranger Things. Um, will be playing Frankenstein with that. Um, but this means in the casting of this, we also might get an actual casting of Nightwing and Red Hood in the live action. So I'm moderately hopeful for that, that might be a circumstance that goes with it, but we'll see how it goes. But Dynamic Duo is in process. World of Warcraft recently had an expansion, and if that's your jam, you might need to check your inventory. Um, the War Within expansion apparently wiped out some guilds' inventories, and it seems like it might be permanent. So when the expansion jumped in, it certain guilds had all of their inventory just completely wiped out. I guess it was part of a story or a franchise. I don't remember all the details of it, but a handful of World of Warcraft players, maybe more than a handful, amount, um, lost all of their inventory. Now, there aren't many games that if you told me my inventory to my characters got lost in expansion, I'd like be hurt about. There aren't games I play on repeat like that. Outside of Destiny 2, there aren't games that I have built up stuff in that I still hold on to. Um, maybe Resident Evil as well. I think those transfer as well. Um, but if you're still one of these people that are legitimately grinding in World of Warcraft, for you to lose your stuff is a big deal, and I'm sorry. And I hope they get that worked out. Scientists have now officially completed fully mapping the brain of a fruit fly for the first time. Um, that's a lot of very detailed, small, intricate videography, design, etc. to fully map the brain of a fruit fly. Uh, now, outside of that just being cool, it's a big deal because fruit flies are used heavily in Alzheimer's research and for cancer. And so, but because now that they fully have a fruit fly mapped brain, it will be able to further help people with their cancer treatments, their Alzheimer prognoses, and things like that. So it's just a little bit cooler than normal sci-fi. It's this could actually help people in the long run medically as well. So yay for flies. Um, Shaq, Shaquille O'Neal is coming to Fortnite um, with a sledgehammer made of speakers as one of his primary weapons. But yeah, Shaq is coming to Fortnite. If you are a Fortnite player and you want to lay down the thunder with Shaquille O'Neal, you're gonna have that opportunity. Joker Folia Dude has come out in theaters as of last night slash this morning. If you plan to watch it, I guess enjoy yourself. Let you know there is no post credit scene, so you do not need to wait around. Um, my kids heavily, get influenced by peer pressure and everybody else wanting to watch and talk about stuff. So they wanted to watch the first Joker uh this past week so they could watch this one. And I had not watched the Joker since theaters. Less traumatizing the second go around, but still traumatizing. Yeah. A zombie fungus has been found in Scotland. Um, that is very similar in what they're saying to the way that the fungus from The Last of Us behaves in terms of control, in terms of mutation and manipulation. They're saying that it is actually very similar to the fungus from The Last of Us, but they're saying it only affects currently spiders. Now, and people are saying, don't worry, it only affects spiders. First of all, if a fungus can take over a spider, I don't think it's going to stop there. Second of all, I don't need zombie spiders. Living spiders are already the worst, and zombie spiders are worse than that. So, Scotland, we might not be friends if you keep up these shenanigans. And I highly recommend you deal with your zombie spiders and your aggressive fungus. Please and thank you. Now, this is not the first case that we've seen of things like that. There is a fungus that has actually reanimated ants before and literally led them to slaughter other ants and things like that. It's kind of crazy. Nature be tripping. But there is a zombie fungus in Scotland. You should be aware of that. And also stay away from every spider in Scotland. You want to do that. Uh, it has been a complicated world if you are a wrestling viewer lately with viewership changing networks and streaming services. For the longest time, SmackDown was on Fox, and now it has moved to USA. Uh, and when SmackDown moved to USA, it was no longer streamable on Hulu, which made some wrestling fans sad. And on the same note, Raw, which is also on USA, is now no longer streamable as well. Raw is moving to Netflix in January, but currently there's not a lot of options for people that don't have actual basic cable to watch the show or the series with ease at the moment. Now there is some stuff in works with Peacock to be able to watch one of the shows, but currently it's people are kind of left in the dark with that. Um, there has been deals and stuff being negotiated with Hulu, but nothing has been effectively worked out. And this past week was the first time uh, that Raw was not available on Hulu. So it's moderately discouraging. On that note, this weekend is the Bad Blood pay-per-view. Or not pay-per-view. I still say pay-per-view because that's what I grew up with in the 90s. It's a PLE, premium live event, which you will be able to watch on Peacock if you care. Um, in other interesting news on that note, AEW has signed a new deal. I want to say it was for 5 years. AEW will now start streaming on Max. So you will be able to watch AEW matches on HBO Max. And no, it's not technically HBO Max, but you know what I mean. Um, which will definitely broaden the up and coming promotions stats and viewership. Also, in the wacky world of wrestling, Netflix dropped their documentary, Mr. McMahon, which realistically is a lot more of the history of the WWE and the McMahon family. But you can tell that once the allegations dropped in 2022, because they filmed most of it in 2021, that they reverse engineered this thing to be a piece directed towards Vince being horrible, which we get that he is. But in terms of a creative and artistic medium, they this is not what it was intended to be, and then they made it that. From my perspective, and from Vince McMahon's perspective as well. Um, but I watched it this week just for my own curiosity, and there wasn't a lot that was surprising, but there was still enough surprising and discouraging uh in the process. So if you care, that's on Netflix, all 6 episodes. And things that we absolutely don't need, have never needed, and will never need, by my opinion. A live action Rugrats is coming. Tommy Pickles, Angelica, Chucky, Phil and Lil, Susie are coming to live action to the big screen. Uh, from Jason Moore, the dude who made Pitch Perfect. Jeff says, no, yeah. The dude who made Pitch Perfect is making a live action Rugrats, and the babies will CGI talk. This is like, look who's talking, except 30 years later, and will probably not look as good as Look Who's Talking, because we're not great at these things. But some of the babies, especially the younger ones, will be CGI. Um, but realistic CGI. Like I guess it'll be CGIing their mouth moving is the way they do with like the Lion King movie and stuff like that. Either way, if you weren't aware, they just tried an upgraded 3D animated version of Rugrats that got canceled and was not well received. I don't know. Um, Tristan Birch quoting my wife, no, we don't need that. No, we don't need that. Y'all, Rugrats was dope. Rugrats was dope 30 years ago. I still think of Rugrats on a regular basis. I don't need you to do new things to it. Um, I know they made an all growed up one, and I think I would have checked that out at some point, but I never did. Um, Now, if they manage to make it super cute and entertaining, great. I will applaud it and I will give them my money. But just in concept, this sounds like a bad idea. Lynn also says this sounds like a terrible idea, and I agree. Um, Epic Games, which is a North Carolina-based video game company, they are the folks who bring you Fortnite. Epic Games CEO Ted Sweeney says they spent last year rebuilding and getting everything solid on all fronts, and that they are now financially sound, but that came at the cost of laying off 830 employees. So they said, we're a better company now. We're structured, we're sound, but we also laid off nearly 1,000 employees. Listen, if you have to lay off 1,000 employees for you to be sound, I don't think you're sound, especially not them. If you are a SpongeBob fan or you just like novelty food, like the good burger that came to Arby's, you're in luck because soon you'll be able to get an officially licensed and approved Krabby Patty from Wendy's. They're going to starting next week, I believe, October 8th. Krabby Patties will be available at Wendy's locations. Now, that's cool and all, a SpongeBob themed burger, whatever. I'm not mad at it. I'm also not like, oh boy, I need to eat this. Because I'm not the biggest SpongeBob. I was just generationally, I was the generation before SpongeBob. Um, or at least when I had cable. But why I care about this, beyond just the Krabby Patty, it comes with a pineapple frosty. A pineapple frosty. I will be there with bells on. Listen, if you throw pineapple or mango into most things, I'm about it. A pineapple frosty, chef's kiss. I want to know what that tastes like. I'm one of the few weirdos that actually enjoys a vanilla frosty at Wendy's. And I'm excited to see what a pineapple frosty will be like. So that is coming. Do do do. Um Baldur's Gate 3 is getting official Dungeons and Dragons miniatures from WizKids. So if you want a tiny Asterion um or a Karlach action figure, but you just actually do play Dungeons and Dragons and you want to get the minis, they'll be available. And a geographic and scientific discovery I did not have on my bingo card for the year. Scientists have found 40 large craters at the bottom of Lake Michigan. This is how we get kaiju people. This is how we get like giant lizards stomping on cities. If there are 40 large craters at the bottom of Lake Michigan, we don't need to know why. We don't need to know what's in them. All we need to know is leave it alone because this is how bad things happen. Um, but they're there and they're going to be explored and they're going to find out why there are 40 large craters at the bottom of Lake Michigan. Yep. And our most of y'all's news feeds has been flooded or swamped lately with all the allegations of Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy, who now over this past week has had, I think, the number of lawsuits and allegations has risen to 120 against him. And that's, we know that these things domino and more stuff is coming out, and we knew that's gonna keep up. What I didn't expect this week is that Garth Brooks would also find himself on this end of things, not to the degree from which we see of Diddy, but Garth Brooks has been accused of SA, as I'll do the TikTok thing of not saying the words out loud so I don't get kicked off the internet. Garth Brooks has been accused of assault and battery of a sexual nature by his former makeup artist and hairstylist. Um, and Garth is taken publicly to say that this is not who I am. I didn't do these things, etc. But the allegations are there, and it's gonna we're gonna find out how that goes down. Daniel Kaluuya, if I'm butchering homie's name, and I apologize, but the star of the movie Get Out is getting memorialized along like right next to Harry Potter and Mary Poppins, with a statue in London's Leicester Square. They're literally taking the iconic image of him in the chair with the scared face and making that a statue and dropping it in the middle of London, um, for pop culture fans. And one, whether you like Get Out or not, um, this is an accomplishment for um, Jordan Peele, because the dude created his own original storyline, and now it's literally being ranked and remembered alongside of Harry Potter and Mary Poppins. That an indie-ish, um, near parable level story of racial inequality is being like remembered on that level just from 2010. And I think that's pretty impressive. Um, Dude's acting in that was phenomenal. I mean, just the facial expression in the one scene with the teacup is fire. But if you would have told me that he was going to be the next thing to be immortalized in that capacity, wouldn't have guessed it would have been there. So congratulations to Peel and to Daniel with that. Um, Pat Sajak finished uh Wheel of Fortune a few months or weeks ago, the regular edition, but there's also a celebrity Wheel of Fortune, and Pat Sajak will be finishing the final episode of the celebrity Wheel of Fortune uh as an office episode. So Dwight, um Ellie, Kemper, who plays Nellie, no, Aaron, who plays Aaron, and Oscar from The Office will be on Celebrity Wheel of Fortune, and it will be the final one of that. Do 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 do. Tobin Bell, the actor who is famous for portraying Jigsaw in the Saw franchise, has announced that he will be in Saw 11 when it comes out. Uh, this dude died in the franchise like literally 20 years ago. Um, Maybe 2009 or 10 or something, but they keep bringing him in and do past stories and things like that, stories that fit between earlier movies. And he says that he has no problem being pigeonholed because he gets to portray this iconic character and he gets to do things that a lot of people don't get to do. So he understands that he's pigeonholed and that he's typecast, but he says, dang it, he's having a good time. So Tobin Bell will return for Saw 11. And more news of Hurricane Helene and the aftermath in it. A pregnant woman says that she survived through the flooding by clinging to a mattress for 8 hours. That as she was literally being swept away, that she held onto a mattress for 8 hours and it was able to make it to safety. Um, uh, because she held on to that mattress for so long, and she and her child are going to be okay because of that. And that's pretty cool. Caitlin Clark, is the WNBA Rookie of the Year. And let's be honest, that's not crazy surprising because most people don't know a lot of people's names in the WNBA as a whole. We as a nation, we as a people, even people like sports probably can't off the top of your head name 10 WNBA players. And Caitlin Clark has been dominating the news cycle more so in the last few years leading into this. So that's not surprising, but good job, and hope she'll bring more attention and, equal pay and things of that nature as it comes to it. Um The Wild Robot is out. I saw it with my kids. It was really fun. Um, but I'm gonna say her name wrong too. Lupita that plays the Wild Robot, who we know from a lot of other things as well. In an interview with CBN News, Christian Broadcasting Network, or maybe it's Christian Broadcasting News, either way, CBN. She did an interview with them, and she used her interview time to talk about lessons about her faith that she learned from her mother. And she spoke specifically, a lesson that she learned from her mother, is that her mom used to really like the prayer of Jabez and things of that nature, which was a big trend in the early 2000s. Um, it says that there's always room for more blessings. Says that if you believe in a God, he is not punitive, that he's not limited, and that a lot of times we talk ourselves out of growth, we talk ourselves out of blessings, we talk ourselves out of things because we don't see the abilities to be able to uh, create them, so we don't think they're possible. And that if we truly think God is who he is, then we should not limit ourselves on what God can do based on what we can do. So she used her interview for the Wild Robot to really bring out some biblical encouragement with this. If you want to see something fun, Matt Smith, the 11th Doctor slash whatever Targaryen he is, Daemon Targaryen, is now currently filming a movie called Caught Stealing with Darren Aronofsky and Aaron Butler or Austin Butler. And he has a like 18-inch multicolored mohawk, um, and is dressed like a punk rock character from Guitar Hero. So if you want to see a fun image, you should check that out. But it's from the movie Caught Stealing, which is currently filming. Um, Earlier this week, SpaceX launched a uh rocket to bring home the two stranded astronauts. The rocket launched and it made it to the International Space Station and docked. Haven't heard anything since then, but it did leave here, make it there, and I guess they're preparing to bring these folks home who have been stranded. Uh, Media mogul slash pseudo professional wrestler and beverage connoisseur and purveyor of bad life choices, Logan Paul has welcomed his first child into the world, Esme. And he announced it with a photo of him and his fiance, um, and says that Esme has entered the chat, was how he announced it. He's also been heavily criticized, surprise, surprise, um, because he used the time prior to her birth while he was live streaming in the pregnancy area, I guess the hospital suite, to advertise the snacks that they were eating from his company and Mr. Beast's company leading up to the childbirth. And y'all, it's Logan Paul. Don't be surprised. I mean, I'm not mad at it. If I had a bajillion people watching me and I could sell my own snacks while somebody gave birth, I'm not saying the thought wouldn't enter my mind. I probably wouldn't do it, but this is also brought to you by, and that's just a notepad. I don't have anything. But yeah, Logan Paul did that. Yes. Do do do. There was a thing that was announced maybe 3, 4 weeks ago, where a breakup contract, air quotes, leaked between Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, that his PR firm leaked a breakup contract saying that they were going to break up on September 28th, and how they were going to handle it in the press like that. And um it was deemed that that was a fake, but people are pointing out that Taylor Swift has skipped the last two NFL games for the Chiefs, and she was not in attendance. Y'all, we got a lot of time on our hands, um, that we're literally charting and plotting breakups. I get it. A lot of people's lives are invested in this attention. I'm telling you about it on my Friday morning, but uh, yeah, I just think it's crazy that that's, how deep we are with it. Um, Sabrina Carpenter went on record this week saying that she is taking credit for bringing down the mayor of New York with his financial issues and the things that he's being indicted of. Because she filmed a music video in a church, and it was considered a controversial music video in general, being what it was in a church. Um, and so the FBI and the legal folk of that nature were curious how the finances were handled with her filming in this church. So they started investigating the priest of that church, and the priest of that church had financial ties to the mayor, which showed all of his discrepancies. And so she's saying that she brought him down. So bananas. Um, and other folks that did pass away this week, Major League Baseball legend Pete Rose died at the age of 83. Um, Another fellow that was surrounded by scandal, and his story would be different. It was told today instead of a few years back, but Pete Rose did pass away. And someone who did not die this week, uh, President Jimmy Carter, the America's 39th president, turned 100. Y'all, I don't know the last time I've heard of a president turning 100, but apparently you can still be 100 and run for president. Um, but it's cool that he has lived this long. If you aren't aware that past his presidency, Jimmy Carter has done probably more good for the world after being president than before it, with things like Habitat for Humanity, building homes for the homeless, doing community service work. He's one of the folks that, whether I don't have anything to chime in on his political stuff, and his political run was before my time, but I know that the dude served on a lot of ministry and service projects over the last couple decades. So good for him. David Jones, father of Elizabeth Marquez, um, uh, drove 7 hours to be able to walk his daughter down the aisle, but they were affected by Hurricane Helene. He got as close to where he could to get to his daughter's wedding, and uh was told that the only routes to get to where his daughter's wedding was unnavigable. Navigatable? No, it says unnavigable. That's such a weird word. That all the roads to get to his daughter were unnavigable after he had already driven 7 hours, and that there was no way for him to get back to where he was, or they were stuck in the traffic of all the cars that were jammed. Either way, it was in a place that he was like not going to be able to make his daughter's wedding. Um, so homie laced up his shoes, and he's a runner in general. He is an athletic runner. Um, and he ran on foot 5.5 hours through unnavigable landscapes to get to his daughter's wedding so he could walk her down the aisle. Um, uh, he climbed and crawled over 7 to 10 foot piles of debris. Um, and literally had to fight his way to make it there, but he said he wasn't going to miss his daughter's wedding. Now, my thought in hearing all this was like, maybe postpone the wedding so dad can show up. I don't know that communication was a possibility. I don't know the whole story, but all I'm saying is A, David's a gangster. B, um, just kind of crazy to go through all that. But good job, David. That 90s show has been canceled on Netflix after 2 seasons. The showrunner for the show is shopping the show around to see if he can get it picked up somewhere else. If you weren't aware, the Monsters uh series on Netflix recently did a story on the Menendez brothers, and where it actually showed a little bit more about their upbringing and the abuse and things like that. And Kim Kardashian has released a formal letter saying that these kids need to be let out of jail, based on this. And on top of that, though, because documentaries can change stuff, guys. It's crazy. Um, a new court hearing has been announced for Eric and Lyle Menendez on November 29th, 28 years after their conviction. I remember being in school when that happened. That's so long ago. Um, but based on the Monsters series from Netflix, it has brought up attention, and they're literally getting brought back to trial because they were sentenced to life in 1996. Um, and this Netflix documentary slash dramatization might literally get these guys out of jail. Bananas. Bananas, I say. Pink Floyd sells their entire music rights to Sony for $400 million. And it was originally going to be $500 million. But one of the band members' political commentary knocked 100 million off the price tag. Imagine your public discussion, criticism of things gets you $100 million less for something, but kind of crazy. Uh, Alan Richson is one of my favorite actors. He's a big old beefy man that makes Henry Cavill look like Hugh Jackman, and or like short Hugh Jackman from Deadpool and Wolverine. Um, and I'm always down to see him doing beefy, burly things. Uh, but he is going to be taking a soft turn away from big, beefy, burly things and starring in the next Nicholas Sparks movie. Um, the Nicholas Sparks bestseller Counting Miracles is being adapted into a movie and will be starring Alan Richson from Reacher slash all the things. So you're going to get a romantic Nicholas Sparks movie with Alan Richson. I hope you enjoy it. Reese Witherspoon has co-written a thriller novel. You can't wait for that one, Tristan? Okay, I'm here for it. I grew up in the, well, not grew up, I was adulting early in the 90s when I worked at Walden Books, and Nicholas Sparks was really taking off. So it's just always kind of been crazy for me to watch all of his stories play out. But yeah, he'll do a great job with it. Reese Witherspoon co-wrote a thriller novel with thriller novel writer Harlan Coben, and that will be published on October 14th, 2025, so a full year from now. Um, and so she co-wrote a thriller novel. Uh, The Office ladies, if you aren't familiar, in 2019, the Office ladies of Pam and Angela, Jenna Fisher and Angela Kingsley, or Kinsey from The Office started a podcast called The Office Ladies, and it lasted from 2019 until now of them rewatching the series and commenting on it and bringing in guests and things like that. They're finishing their watch through after 5 years, and now they're going to not only not end the series, they're going to expand it, and it'll become a twice a week podcast coming in with that. Frank Darabont, one of the creators of one of my favorite films, The Shawshank Redemption, is coming out of retirement. Uh, Frank Darabont has not directed in 11 years, um, fitting for the story I'm about to tell you. Frank Darabont was known for The Shawshank Redemption, was his big claim to fame. He also directed the first 6 episodes of The Walking Dead, which is why I actually watched The Walking Dead. I had not read the comics and didn't care that much about the idea of it, but I wanted to watch whatever Frank Darabont directed. Anyway, um, Frank Darabont is coming out of retirement um, to direct Stranger Things season 5 episodes. Um, and the idea that the dude who brought us Shawshank, uh, and who started off The Walking Dead is going to be, um, directing Stranger Things, I think is a really good thing. I'm pretty excited about this, honestly. If you weren't aware, the dock workers strike is apparently over. Um, it, we had a brief stint of people hoarding toilet paper and paper towels and water and diaper and all those things, which it came at a really inconvenient time because people actually need that stuff. But the dock worker strike is over, and it looks like they will have a 61.5 wage increase over 6 years. Final details are going to be negotiated, but it is in process. Robert Downey Jr. is in his first Broadway play right now. And funny enough, is starring against Jan from The Office. If you have not seen that, let's see. Uh, on the note of Hurricane Helene and things like that, Better Health or Better Help, the online therapy organization, um, is offering 3 free months of counseling and therapy to anybody that lives in Western North Carolina. So if you are in the area that has been impacted and you're struggling after the trauma of uh all the devastation that's happening there, um they're offering 3 free months of therapy. And you can find that at betterhelp.com. I think that's great. Being a two-time flooding slash hurricane survivor, I definitely think I could have used some counseling and help during that process, and I'm really grateful that some people are going to get that opportunity. Saturday Night Live took a swing at the spirit of Halloween um in a recent episode, uh like doing a fake commercial for it saying that Spirit of Halloween provides vulnerable communities with the things they need most: wigs that give you a rash, single-use fog machines, and costumes of famous characters tweaked just enough to avoid a lawsuit. Uh, in response, the Spirit of Halloween posted an image of an adult-sized costume that said SNL 50, the anniversary season, which is said to include dated references, unknown cast members, and shrinking ratings on the packaging. So, uh, Spirit of Halloween clapped back. It's all fun and games, guys. But I mean, it's probably also good advertising for the Spirit of Halloween too. Um, that's cool. That's basically all of our news. A couple things just to let you know of in news stuff. Uh, this was supposed to be a weekend. I was at Boone Comic Con, which will not be happening because of the hurricane and the flooding, and that has been postponed. I was also supposed to be a keynote speaker at Geek Camp, which was going to be a mountain retreat for adults who want to get together and play games and talk about Jesus and all that stuff. And that has been postponed as well because that was in Asheville at Camp Luther Ridge, or technically Arden, but same difference. And so those are two events that are postponed at the moment. So I'll keep you posted for more things that are coming up with that. Also, we're in October, we're on October 4th, and so we are in the month of daily art prompts, like Inktober and things of that nature, and a lot of people create their owns. Um, and some people don't touch Inktober because they've had uh negative things said about the people that run it. I just like being creative and coming up with my own things. I checked Inktober and I didn't like necessarily the prompts this year, although prompts are good to help you be creative. But this year I made my own prompt list for the month of October by letting my Zune, which I still use daily, shuffle and taking stuff out of the song titles to make prompts. And so I'm having fun with that. You can find that prompt list over on my Instagram or on the Faith and Fandom Facebook page. Day one was Healer. And so here is Bandit Healer from Bluey putting band-aids on a heart. Ooh, wrong way. And killed dry bones. Day two was pants, and so here's a Yamper from Pokemon painting. I did not do day three yet. It's my own prompt list, and I failed because I worked outside 12 hours yesterday and was sleepy. Um, but I'm going to do that today, and I'll show that later. So if you want to find that, but either way, reason telling you that is not so you can draw my list because I don't get anything out of it. I just encourage you, be creative, push outside of your comfort zone, and you'll be able to see stuff change. I feel like I've gotten better at my little sketches over the last year or so because I've been doing it pretty regularly and it's helped. I would encourage you, uh, do things you don't think you can do well. Do things you don't think that you can do easily. Challenge yourself with that. On that note, let's jump into some scripture for our roll for initiative Bible reading. Got my 3D20. I have a GalaxyCon D20 that has a rocket ship inside it, which is pretty cool. Um, a coffee themed D20 that actually has a cup of coffee for the 20. It's pretty neat. Um, and a solid metal dragon scaled D20 that I also got from GalaxyCon, and a D10. So we're gonna roll 70 and see which, man, there goes my highlighter. See which book of the Bible we're going to read out of today. The way we do this is we roll 70 because people on the internet are smarter than me. We're going to roll 70 and subtract 4. That way we have the ability to get the first 4 books of the Bible. But you would literally have to roll like a lot lower. You'd have to roll real low to be able to do that. But we're going to see what happens. All right, so what are you? Let's see where you landed. You're at 8. Okay. Okay. So we have, let's do some math because it's early and I don't want to. All right. We've got plus 8, plus 8, plus 17. Oh, we're going to be in the Old Testament faux show. Subtract 4. And I feel like we keep ending up in the same book region. We are going to be in the 32nd book of the Bible, out of 39. Um, so 39, 38, 37, 36, 35, 34, 33, 32. Huh. Apparently we're in Jonah. 2, 3, 3, 4. Yep. All right, we are in Jonah. 2. Okay, yeah, we were in Obadiah one of the times recently, so yeah, it was really close. Jonah has four um chapters, so I think I've got a four-sided die. Let's check that. Six. Eight. Yes, I do have a four. I have this Ted Lasso soccer dice, which goes one through four. It also has a zero, but we won't do anything with that. So let's see which book of Jonah or chapter of Jonah we're gonna read. Chapter three. So Jonah chapter three. Jonah goes to Nineveh. I've got this journal that I picked up. I think last week was the first week I used it here. It's called a Here Journal. Um, where you mark what you highlight, which is one verse you focus on, explain what it means to you, how you apply it to respond is what your prayer is, and then a reset where you focus on your relationships, your environment, your scripture, your emotions, and your thankfulness, and you kind of do an inventory of where you are spiritually in those areas as well. So I've been using this for past week or two and really enjoyed it. So you got my highlighter, got my pencil, got my pen, and I'm gonna go ahead and jump in this. So Jonah 3. This is October 4th. All right, let's read. Jonah chapter 3. Jonah goes to Nineveh. Then the word of the Lord came to Jonah a second time. Go to the great city of Nineveh and proclaim the message I give you. Jonah obeyed the word of the Lord and went to Nineveh. Now, Nineveh was a very large city. It took 3 days to go through it. And just one thing to point out, this isn't 3 days to get to it. It took 3 days to get through the city just walking. Unless you're that dude who needed to get to his daughter's wedding, and then you can go faster. Verse 4 says, Jonah began by going a day's journey into the city, proclaiming 40 more days, and Nineveh will be overthrown. The Ninevites believed God. A fast was proclaimed, and all of them, from the greatest to the least, put on sackcloth. Um, One of the reasons that Jonah stands out so much as a story is the fact that it really is one of the situations that points out that A, you can't say no for people. B, um, that you can't be the one who determines what God's going to do. You just need to be faithful to actually do what he says. Um, Jonah didn't want to go to Nineveh because he didn't want them to receive mercy. He wanted them to be punished. And this also is a good indicator for us that we don't need to be the ones to determine who God's going to move through and how he's going to move through them. It says the Ninevites believed God. A fast was proclaimed, and all of them, from the greatest to the least, put on sackcloth. Um, and one of the things we see here is that literally all it took was for these people to hear the message once, and they responded. Um, so the question I guess it has for me is, how many times does it take us to hear before we actually respond to God? Because it only took them once. Some of us know way better and we know way more, but we still are really slow to respond. Um, Verse 6 says, when Jonah's warning reached the king of Nineveh, he rose from his throne, took off his royal robes, covered himself with sackcloth, and sat down in the dust. This proclamation he issued to Nineveh by the decree of the king and his nobles: do not let people or animals, herds or flock taste anything. I just spilled coffee on my bibble. Oh, well, that'll make some for creative pages. It's not the highlight I was looking for. It's okay. It shows up in here. Um, do not let people or animals, herds or flocks taste anything. Do not let them eat or drink, but let people and animals be covered with sackcloth. Let everyone call urgently on God. Let them give up their evil ways and violence. Now, Nineveh at that point in time was considered one of the most wicked cities. They worshipped a lowercase g god that was focused on fish and the ocean and things like that. Very naturalistic in their worship practices. Much like, folks that worship Ra and the sun, these folks worship the ocean and fish and things of that nature. And it says, let everyone call urgently on God, let them give up their evil ways and their violence. Um, they recognized that the best response to who God is repentance. And I love verse 9. Verse 9 says this: who knows? The king says, who knows? Who knows? God may yet relent with compassion and turn his fierce anger so that we will not perish. Now, he didn't say as an automatic formula, do this stuff and God will do these things. He told these people to, the king, not Jonah, told these people to repent, period, full stop. But then he says, after the repentance instruction, who knows, maybe God will relent. This is very Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego of the fact that it wasn't a guarantee. It's like there is something we know we could be doing. So let's do what we know we we're doing, and who knows, maybe God will show up for us. When God saw what they did and how they turned from their evil ways, he relented and did not bring on the destruction he had threatened. And it literally was that was the outcome. God saw that they listened, they responded. He says, all right, cool. We don't need to go any further. And he extended mercy, which if you read past into Jonah, Jonah was mad about that in the next chapter, and he didn't want them to receive mercy. He was mentally anguished and begging God to kill him because he didn't want to watch those people receive mercy. And that's just a sad um, place to be. So I'm going to focus on one verse out of this passage. I'm going to focus on um, verse 9, which is, I'm going to write it out because that's what I'm doing in this thing. Um, who knows? Question mark. God may yet relent and with compassion turn from his fierce anger so that we will not perish. If y'all are listening to this, does this pencil scratching count as ASMR? Um, Jonah 39. Why this stands out to me is I think for me, I think it's easy for me to embrace the destruction of saying, you know what, it's all going to fall apart anyway. It's all going to fail. I know I deserve whatever I'm getting. I know these are the consequences of my actions. I know how faithful I haven't been, things like that. It's easy for me to get to a place where I really just write it off and say, whatever. Um, I'm not going to bother doing the right thing or asking for mercy because I know I'm getting what I deserve. Maybe I'm the only person that ever gets that way, but I end up in that place of like, I don't ask for mercy or move towards mercy or ask for help um because I don't see myself as in a place where um like why should I get it? Like what should be the thing? We discount mercy, uh rule ourselves out, rule ourselves out of grace. Um and see ourselves as failures instead of loved. I think that's a big one. Oh, so how do we apply this? I know this could sound crazy to say it like this, but give God the benefit of the doubt. Remember that He wants to give mercy. Remember that He desires mercy, not sacrifice. Remember our whole theology slash doctrine is based on God sacrificially showing us grace. The response to that for me would be able to say, God, help me see you and myself through the correct lens. Help me to correct my actions where needed, but to also embrace the hope of your goodness. And then the rest of the journal has like, where are my relationships? what's my environment, other scripture, how are my emotions, and thankfulness. And I'll revisit those personally throughout the day. Um, as I'm going through that. Yep. Um, couple things else I just thought of while wrapping this up. Um, I found a new book this week that I recommend if you're my type of nerd. Sit that there. The book called Myth Makers. If you listen to the Pull List podcast, you'd have heard me talk about this already. And it is a hardback graphic novel that goes through the relationship of the journey of C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien. Their history together as friends, as individuals, their relationships, losses, and how their story ultimately affected the rest of the world. Um, this was dope. I read this uh I read this in one sitting because I was just captivated by it when I read it. So recommend that. I haven't read this yet, but also just to let you know, My Hero Academia has published their next to last manga volume. Um, 39 just dropped on Tuesday, and the final volume of My Hero Academia's volumes will drop in February. But this is the next to the last one. And yeah, I think that's about it. Also, the season finale for uh Rings of Power dropped. If you've watched it, don't say anything yet because I know there's some spoilerish stuff and I don't want to know. I'm about to watch it when this is over. So shush. But that did drop. And before I go, I want to take a moment to thank our Patreon supporters for being all that you are and all that y'all do to help with helping uh make all the stuff we do possible. Um so let's see. Lynn Turner, David Brooks, Jeff Weimer, Colin Sproles, Jamie Montgomery, the Coleman family, Jonathan Herman, Ron Petit, Gear Saber Cosplay, who just had their big HouseCon event, Scott Ward, Alicia Glenn, Candace Davis, Jay Sheed, Jason Crutchfield, Mike Perna, Todd Turner, John Jacobs, Zach Harris, Caleb Grimm, Jeanette Skaggs, Jason Bullock, Christina Ray, Sarah Lewis, Patrick Gale, Rebecca Godlove, and Adam Davis. Thank you all for supporting, for encouraging, and for helping make all that Faith and Fandom does possible. Um, we do have a couple cons left for the year, even with the cancellations. We'll be at Fayetteville Comic Con October 19th and 20th. Um, by the way, if any of you are Judah and the Lion fans, holler at me. Um, I have some tickets I don't know if I'm going to be able to use. Um, but yeah, um, Fayetteville Comic Con, October 19th and 20th. Um, Empire Comic Con the following weekend. And I might be attending NC Comic Con, and I've also heard there might be a Myrtle Beach show popping back up potentially. So I'm waiting to hear from that. But thank y'all for taking the time to listen, to be around, to be encouragements, and I hope the rest of your weekend is good for you and that you are blessed and encouraged. And I hope to see you all at a con real soon. And yeah, thanks for taking the time to be here, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, y'all.